Welcome back. Today we're going to tie my Miss October using the dubbing brush here. This is the one that we have. This is a brush that I built out of some MFC feathers. Once I use the tip for tails or overwings, whatever it may be, I take and build these brushes. I'll do a video on this here before too long. I'll put that out for like a time tips on building this actual brush and going through that process. But honestly anymore, after getting these dialed in, I don't palmer Marabou at all anymore. This just fills the fly out so much better. Palmering, unless you have an absolute perfect piece, it can look a little bit sparse, and then when you're tying a bunch of them, it can, especially if you're going through like a 1/4 ounce pack of Marabou, you may get 4 or 5 in there that are really suitable for palmering Hackle or palmering Marabou. So started doing these brushes, and it cuts a lot of time down as well, but I'll speak more to that when we get to that video. But we'll get this one out of the vise and start tying on the October here. So to start on this one, I'm going to go with an MFC. This is 70/50 size 2, and the front hook is going to be a 7008 size 4. It's a 4X long hook, so that's why I go with the size 4 on that one instead of going, typically I go up in sizes, but this is a 3X in the back and then a 4X in the front. So get our thread base down there. I got a couple pieces that are all over the hook on me there. I'm just going to take some gold ice wing, cut that in half, and then bring this around. Get that tied in. Now, on my vise, on these Renzettis, the measuring point that I use to cut this tail is, you'll see there's 2 ridges on this, on the lever here for your tension, and I come just straight up from that second one and push my scissors right through it. That's the measuring, that's the measurement that I use. That's my gauge, or my reference is right there. So if you're using one of these, go ahead with that. If you're using a different vise, find something that'll allow you to be consistent with that measurement. Now I'm going to take and tie in my brush, and you really can't use the rotary function on this, so you just spin it by hand. 2 to 3 turns is about all I use on this, and it's just about perfect. Untrap some of those, and yeah, I'll go with 3 turns on that one. Take and spin this around, get all that stuff out of there, and then I'm just going to peel this back a little bit, and I'm going to make about 2 to 3 wraps back over top of this just to keep it in place. Wet my fingers there, and there we go. Now with that ice wing underneath there, we have some nice internal flash on the tail, and then a nice solid tail section with this Marabou brush. Now we're going to go into some gold UV puller. Get that tied in. And and then work this up to the front. Leave yourself about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch on that, probably 1/8 of an inch on the front. Now we can use the rotary function. Get 2 to 3 good turns in there, and then just anchor this in, give it a quick stretch. 4 to 5, and then anchor. And we're set. Tie that off. Now I'm just peeling this back slightly, giving myself about 1/4 of an inch to work with. And you can see we have a nice clean section right there for our body. Now we're going to go in with some barred ginger Hackle here. I'm going to find 2 that marry up pretty nice. I like these 2 here. Like I was explaining with the barely for these lateral lines, I didn't have it in the olive grizzly, but I like these. You can see how much thicker this is than the one that I used on that barely. I like it just a little bit wider than what I had on those, but I was a little bit short, like I said, on that pack. So with this one, I take this back to my material clip. That's the measurement that I use for this. I'm just going to strip this back, and then you can take and flatten these barbs out if you want. Just throw it right in your scissors there and then work it through. It'll flatten that barb out. Sometimes when you tie them in, when they're round or when they're rounded, they have a tendency to want to roll on you. So I try and flatten those out a little bit, and that gets them going down the center how I want them. And then I'm tying in just a little bit of the fibers there. That way it gives me a little bit to grab, a little bit of extra assurance that it's not going to go rolling on me. And then you can see we have that nice lateral line coming right down the side. Measure this one out, get them the same length. That one's a little beat up. Well, back to the drawing board here. That one was a little beat up. Trying to find a good one. That looks good. It's got a bunch of different colors in it, so kind of like the way that looks. Breaks up that body a little bit. So same thing. Get that measured out. Flatten out that stem. And then we're going to bring this right to where they're the same length. I want to get these as close as I can. Set that in. Loose wraps it first. Make sure that it's running right down the center for you. And then after you're happy with where it is, you can go ahead and really wrench down on that. Really lock it in place. So we're going to go back to the brush again. Just get the wire exposed, that way you're not tying in any of the bulk with the material. And then 2 to 3 wraps. It's a little bit thicker right there, so I think I'm going to get away with 2. Yeah, I'm going to go with 2 on this one. Now I just try to separate this material a little bit. Once again, I'm not tying in a bunch of bulk, and I'm not crowding the eye. In the front there. 1 to 2 wraps right over top just to peel that fiber back, and then you can just clean that up with some more thread wraps. There we go. There's the back half of the October. Now, some of these seem like they're tangled up or trapped in there. Just run your bodkin through there real quick and it'll pick that out for you. Clean that up a little bit. Everything's going back now. And I'm just going to touch this thread up with a little bit of tan. Looks good. Alright, before I take that out of the vise, I'm going to get myself a piece of Beadalon here. Give that a quick pull and grab some beads. That out of the way. Find 2 of these that I like here. There we go. All right. Get that out of the way, and then we'll go on with our size 4. Like I said earlier, this is the 7008. It's a 4X long hook. It's got the down eye instead of the ring eye, but you still have that Aberdeen bend in the back. Now I'm going to put an eye on here, or a dumbbell eye. This is a get that out of my mouth so I can talk. An MFC sparkle eye. This is a nickel with blue. Really sharp looking eyes. I don't really think it makes a big difference. To me it does. I like the way that it looks. So I like the time on there. Changes it up from just a straight red or yellow that I typically use. Alright, get a little thread base down. And we're going to get these eyes secured. So I'm just taking figure-8 wraps right over the top, and then I'm going right around the eye. I'm not around the hook at all, just around the eye. And you can see maybe where that little, where those wraps are, they're kind of going up like this. So now what I'm going to do is take my other wraps and I'm going around that and I'm going to pull it, and it's going to suck those wraps into one another. And it's just 2 times around, and they're on there pretty sturdy. Now I'm going to flip them around, get them set in how I want them, and throw a little bit of zap on here. There we go. Now as that's drying, I'm just going to do the same thing. Figure-8 over top of these eyes. Get a couple of good wraps around there. And then I'm coming right around just the eyes. I'm not touching the hook, just the eyes. There we go. Take that to the back and we're going to get our back hook tied in. get those secure after the wire is set right. You have them running parallel. Get the distance on this that you want. It wasn't quite, a little bit too much there. A little bit too much. Everything looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to run this right to the front, right behind my eyes, and then double it back. A little bit of wet glue up there yet. Alright. Go ahead and capture that. Same thing with that one. Just going to double those back and then trim off this excess. When I'm tying these in production tying these, I have a mark on the bench here that I have my wire is the exact same length every time, so I don't have to waste time cutting that, but I didn't measure it out for this one. So I had to trim a little bit extra off. Alright, we're going to go ahead and whip finish this and get the gel spun back on here. Got the gel spun, and now same thing as before. I'm taking this, and you can see how there's no wire exposed right there. I'm just going to take and pinch the very end of that with my fingers and pick that stuff off. Now I have exposed wire I can tie in, and it's going to make for a nice clean first wrap. I'm not going to have any bumps or anything throughout that. Get that tied in and secured, and same as before, just wrap this around. One, probably going to go 3 on this one because I want it to cover up. I want a nice connection here. I want that connection covered up, so I want a pretty thick skirt. Get a 3rd wrap through there. Now, once again, separate as much of that material so you have a clean tie-off point. Secure those few wraps and then go in and trim that wire off. Now my starting point for this is I hang this down. You're going to see I'm just in front of the point of the hook. I can take that back about one or two more widths. There we go. I'm sitting right about at the point of that hook, just about on it. Now, you have this nice clean connection right here. It just looks like there's no breaks in the fly. It just looks continuous. Get these out of the way there. Alright, back to the body. Got it on my lap. Once again, just gold UV puller. And I'm going to take that right where I doubled my wire over. So I'm going to have about 1/4 of an inch from where the body's going to leave off to the eyes. And I need to get a set of rubber legs and 1 more turn, or 2 more turns of Marabou. Couple of wraps, anchor it in. Couple of wraps, anchor it in. 4 to 5 typically. Every 4 to 5 wraps I'll go through there and cinch down on that. Get that out of the way. Because this GSP is so much stronger, I typically come in and go back over these over those eyes, and they're really locked in place pretty well. Couple more turns of Marabou. We'll get our legs in there. There's one or two in there that I didn't like too much. One or two that got a little trapped. I want to see if I can get a third one in there. Oh yeah, I'm right behind these eyes. Get a third wrap and tie this off right behind the eyes. Try not to trap anything. We have a nice clean tie off point yet again. And now before I tie or clean that up, I'm just taking my bodkin through here and picking anything out that is folded over or trapped on itself. Now I'm going to clean this out. Take a few wraps back the Marabou again, and now you can see this is a nice full body on this fly, and when it gets in the water, this Marabou just dances like crazy. There we go. Now one thing that I want to highlight on this, give me a second, I'll go back into the bin here. Oh, let me find one. Here we go. I want to show the difference on these two. Look at the difference in the body on this one, or the Marabou, compared to this one. This is just a straight palmered one. This is one of the production ones that I did probably a couple of months back by the looks of it. But look how sparse that body is. It still fishes, it still does great, but overall the profile is better on this one. It stays fuller, it doesn't sink down quite as much, and this Marabou is so much more active. There's no stems, there's nothing in there. This is all free flowing Marabou with these brushes. So that being the reason that I transitioned away from palmering Marabou. Like I said, I mean, if I would have taken some more time and really selected through that stuff, I could have got them, you know, could have got a little bit better, but I was probably at the end of the pack or just couldn't find exactly what I was looking for on that. But this way it's consistent. Now we're going to take some brown and pumpkin rubber legs. I want 3 of them. You can get away with doing 2 if you want. I typically like to do 3 on these. Now, to tie in these rubber legs, you have all 3 of them stacked right here, one next to another, and they're not folded on themselves. A loose wrap around, figure 8 this. Come on the other side, and now you can see we've got that nice X sitting right over top of our rubber legs. At this point, we're still loose. Everything is easily manipulated. Just get these legs sitting where you want them, and then go 1 wrap, 2 wrap, pull straight down, and you'll see that gel sponge just sink right into those rubber legs. It's not going to flare them out. You can see the legs are sitting just how you want them. I mean, they're not sticking all over the place. They're falling naturally down. Yeah, I'll go ahead and cut these now. So figure out where you want to cut these, have the tension, release the tension, and then trim. Now I'm going to take a straw and get these out of the way. And the last thing we have to do on this fly is build the head, and we are good to go. So before I start that, I'm going to go with just a little throat. I put these on the Tenet 2s, the Octobers, landing strips, Brazilians. I like this little red throat on here. It's a just a secondary trigger point, I think, along with the eyes. I don't know. I started doing them on the Tenet 2s, and I incorporated this into quite a few other patterns. So just kind of dresses it up a little bit. There we go. Trim that one before you go getting the head on here. And I'm going to take and actually capture that with this straw as well. There we go. That's out of the way. I'm not going to cut it off. Now for the head on this one, I've used in the past just the straight Sculpin olive, and it's a pretty close color for this tan and brown. I wanted just a little bit more brown in there, so I'm going to go probably 3/4 Sculpin olive and 1/4 brown. I just want, and I'm not mixing it up really well. I want some brown streaks to sit through there. So grab a little bit more out of there. There we go. Like I said, I want that brown to be pretty streaky through there. I want to be able to see it, so I'm not mixing this extremely well. I'm just taking this maybe 2 or 3 times through, and then that's it. So I have a decent amount of brown still through there. It kind of cuts that Sculpin olive down slightly. So I'm going to get that sitting right where I want it. 2 to 3 wraps, pull down, it's going to tighten this up. And then this is all we're going to do. We're going to repeat this all the way to the front of this hook. Get your material halfway around, and you're able to manipulate where you want this to go. Just make sure that that cup is going right to the hook. It's not sitting sideways or anything like that. You want that cup going right to the hook. I'm going to get a little bit thicker as I go to the front here. One more on the bottom. That looks pretty good. Now I want a good brown streak in this one, so I'm just going to take and lay this in. I'm going to pick out what I want from this. Oh, like I said, I want a good brown streak right on the top. So I'm going to lay that in. I'm going to turn it once. Sometimes I'll put a little black in there too, all depending. Now, one thing that you got to watch for on these down eyes, is, like you saw when I was first tying that in, I got a little bit too far forward and I was tying down on that slope and it wanted to kick down on me. Just make sure that you're tied in before that slope there, and you'll be good to go. So now we'll whip finish this. Clean that up pretty good. I'm going to grab a tan marker again. I'm just touching this white up through here. Everything looks pretty clean. And then there's a little bit of white back here. I'm just touching that up too. I'm not really going to notice it too awful much, really. By the time we brush this stuff out and trim it, it's going to cover up that empty spot there pretty well. When I first did these, when I first started doing the laser dove heads, I would get way too much material on here in an effort to try and cover up those thread wraps. And what happened was it just winds up getting too matted. The material winds up going all over the eyes. So I stack 5 sections in there, and this head's done. Use a lot less material, and it really looks a lot better in my opinion. Fish is better as well. So now we'll take and just get a quick outline or a quick trim on this head, and you can see how it just works its way back. It starts out really close, and then I just kind of angle it back. I'm going to mirror that on the bottom. There we go. Now I'm going to peel this straw out of here, let everything flow around again. Get my legs out of the way. Peel back that marabou. You can see that throat coming through really clean on the underside. And make these legs cooperate here as well. There we go. Clean that up. There is your finished Miss October. Give that a quick spin for the camera. This pattern, of all the ones that I've designed, this one has probably caught consistently my biggest fish, our biggest fish, over the last couple of years. And the nice thing about this is you don't catch any of those funny colored fish, those rainbows. You know, I haven't caught one on October. Some of the other ones, they're probably just flaws in the design. They catch rainbows, and I don't like that. So the October, you can't go wrong with this one. It's even put a few nice bull trout in the net as well. As always, if you guys have questions or comments, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks as always for watching, and we'll catch you next week.